Hi, welcome to Zack of All Trades. Tonight I'm going to try a new little segment that I'm going to call Can It Be Saved? In which I'm going to take a broken or non-working widget of some sort and see if it can't be brought back from the dead. Now, I'm not talking just bring it back long enough that it'll turn on one more time. I mean a real world usable fix that makes that tool or whatever it is usable again, justifiably, to not throw it out. I hope to accomplish two things with this. First off, well, I hope to have a working widget of whatever sort it is. And the second thing is I hope to inspire you a little bit to possibly think about trying to fix something rather than throwing it out and just going and getting a new one. Tonight we're going to start out with this treasure trove that came courtesy of my good friend Jake. Left it in the back of my pickup truck a couple of weeks ago and told me he had left me a gift. Let's see what we got in here. We got a couple of Black & Decker batteries, Black & Decker charger, DeWALT. Got ourselves a nice little DeWALT driver, kind of handy to have around, and the guts of the Black & Decker drill. Both of these things would be pretty handy to have around. After a wee bit of consideration, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig into this DeWALT first. Main reason being, I really don't even know if all the parts of the Black & Decker are here, and so I'm going to gather up what parts I do have and set them aside. See you on another day. First things first, with the DeWALT, I'm going to see what sort of oomph we have in the battery. Confirmed 7 volts in that one, 7.5 volts in this one, and look at there, 7.2 volt. Cool. Now let's see if this little gem will work. What's the chances? 3, 2, 1. Yeah, a whole bunch of nothing. You knew it wasn't going to do anything though, right? Because it wouldn't be in that bag if it just worked. Alright, so the battery has voltage. Let's double check batteries. Swap from that one to that one. Okay. We know both batteries have voltage. Just wanted to check to see if there's a connection problem with the battery. Let's dig into it and see what we can do. I want to first start by showing you the proper way to take apart the old DeWALT DW920. Why do I want to show you this? That's because, well, I kind of did it wrong when I took it apart, and it was a real pain in the neck to get back together. So I'm going to make this real quick. I will go a little bit further into detail of some of the ball bearings and whatnot on the reassembly. But if you need to get into this thing because the wire's cobbled up, which is it's going to happen, here's the way that you do it. First off, you're going to need to take off the transmission and clutch here. Now, I have a couple of Allen wrenches in here. That's because what's normally in here are 2 roll pins. So, first things first, find yourself a punch and drive these 2 roll pins out. They're pretty long. They go all the way through the assembly here. So, we get out roll pin 1, roll pin 2, and now do it this way. And you just pull it out like so. Okay, now you've got the motor separated from the transmission. Now, what might happen to you, happened to me, is that you do this like so and you pull it off topwise, and all this business falls out. All right. Oh. And the balls go all over the place, and the rollers, and all that other business. Now that you've got these separated properly without throwing the pieces all over the floor, that's the biggest thing that I wanted to show you. But I will real quickly show you also how to get into the handle, because you're going to need to do that as well Oh man. Come on, screwdriver. You're going to need to get into there as well to unbugger your messed up wires, because that's why this thing quit working on you. Your wires. See, the problem with it is, taking off on a tangent here, is that it's flexible. I mean, that's great and all, but you got wires in there that have a really tight fit, and they don't like being yanked around, and eventually you're going to break a wire, or like what happened in this case, they will short out, and then you'll have a real hot smell, and your electric screwdriver will quit working. Alright, so take out the 4 screws and hold it together. Here, 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 and here. Now also, 2 Allen wrenches into this pivot and unscrew that. Like so. And now it's ready to come apart. Do this real carefully, because it's kind of a party to put back together. So there you go. That's how you get that whole thing apart. So hopefully that will save you from undoing unnecessary snap rings and taking things apart unnecessarily. Okay, wish me luck. This part is terrifying, because I'm sure that something is going to go boing. Oh. Well, that's kind of disappointing. Nothing flew apart. What do we got here? Take a look there. See if you can identify what's the problem. Yeah. I think I found our issue. Now it just boils down to, can we fix it? The wires appear to have been all twisted up. Look at that. They're twisted and melted all the stuff. Insulation. It ought to be, I suspect it ought to be a relatively easy fix, because I've got some wire like this. I've got a soldering gun. The only problem that I'm seeing right here is, how do we split this case open? There's some little holes here. I'm hoping it'd be really cool if they hide a screw. This does not appear to be a screw in here. Okay, this is a lot of trial and error going on here. So you remember those couple of things that I was fishing at, hoping that they were screws in there? Well, they're not screws. They're roll pins. Right? You gotta have something holding this part to that part, and that's what it is. See there? So I've got them driven out of this side, and once I get them driven all the way out, really, it has no choice but to come apart, right? Oh my. Okay. Let's make sure to put that back together carefully, huh? Yeah. I'm just going to go ahead and set that to the side gently. Now what we're really after is open sesame. Here's your problem. Oh, focus, huh? Yep. I'm going to go ahead and call that the issue. So, what we got to do here is replace a bit of wire and then figure out how to put this thing back together. Yeah, so you remember how I told you I was going to leave this thing alone? Well, I didn't. And I'd be lying if I told you that it wasn't causing me mild concern as to how all those pieces go back together in the right sequence. We'll deal with that. I'm sure we can overcome it. So while my soldering iron is warming up here, I'm just going to do a quick save my bacon here. I'm going to mark black, and I'm going to mark black here. That way, once I get all this desoldered, I won't forget which goes where. Of course, my camera ran out of memory and stopped recording, so suffice to say, I have got the old nasty wires out. I've got new wires cut. So I want to give you a quick tip when soldering. Let's see if I can do this without knocking my camera over. So before you try to solder a wire into a terminal or onto another wire, there's something called tinning. So what you want to do is you want to heat up this wire to some extent and saturate it with the solder. Now it's good to have some solder on your iron. There we go. Just like that. That will focus. There we go. Maybe. Here, focus on my dirty hand. There we go. So once you have those strands saturated, it's super easy to get that to stick on the thing that you're soldering it onto. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. You want to heat up get a little bit of solder on your iron, because liquid solder transfers heat better than does the does the solid iron. Put it underneath the strands of your wire, and then put that up against your fresh solder, and it's just going to suck it right in there. Pretty cool, huh? While my camera was running out of storage and my super duper iPhone to micro SD adapter was being a jerk, I went ahead and took the liberty of soldering these wires into the motor and putting it back together. All right, got them right there. So now I've got it all hooked back into the switch. And well, before I get too much further down the road, I want to kind of test it out to see if I've succeeded. So check this out. This is probably not the best idea, but I'm going to go ahead and hook it up. Now let's see the switch in relation to the battery. Okay, is that narrow end? So I'll do it that way so that I don't reverse polarity. I'll do this carefully so I don't electrocute myself here. Might still. There we go. Alright. Let's see if she does her thing. Oh yeah. Success. Now, next thing is to see if we can get this blasted thing back together. As I put this together, you may get the distinct impression that I've done this before. And it is true. I'm not proud of it, but it took me well, it took me a handful of tries to get this right. Truthfully, I've had this thing together and back apart quite a number of times. And while I am a big proponent of showing you on camera that that it's kind of trial and error, there was some of the material that I'm pretty sure that you would not have enjoyed watching. So here's how this thing goes together. Check that out. It's all one gear there. Here's our double gear reduction. I'm going to slide that down on top of that assembly. See if I can get everybody splined up. Nice and happy. Cool. There's that part. Alright, from there we're going to go on with this guy. Now, this is definitely a side note, but well, it's kind of what I do, so I'm going to show you anyway. So these bumps right here, this is actually pretty ingenious. I didn't know how the clutch, when you tighten down a clutch, how it worked. Basically what's going on here is you're going to have big ball bearings in these holes with a ring and a spring on the top of it. And the tighter that you tighten that down, the more difficult it is for those ball bearings to roll over those bumps. So if you have it loose, they'll roll over easily. The tighter you have it down, the harder it is for those to roll over, thus the tighter your clutch. Yeah, now you know. So get that together. Get these rollers. 6 little rollers. Now the clutch, transmission, however you want to call it, is pretty well back together and ready to install. So next we will we'll take the, I don't know what you want to call this, the drive shaft, the output shaft maybe, and slide it in there. There we go. And into that cavity goes the two of the things that held me up the most. This is actually a bearing surface. I should have known by the extra hardness of it, the extra shininess of it, but it took me a long time to figure out that this is where these 14 little ball bearings went. I spent way more time than I wanted to trying to figure out where 14 of these tiny little ball bearings go. Turns out they go in there. And although you can find a manual for this electric screwdriver online, and you can even find a fairly decent parts breakdown, it does not show you where the ball bearings go. In fact, it just assumes that if the clutch is malfunctioning, that you buy a new one. And here's what I couldn't quite grasp. I found this thing for, I think I found it for 35 bucks online somewhere. I don't remember if it was Amazon or where it was. But this whole unit, brand new, for 35 bucks. As I stumbled upon the parts house that had the breakdown, the parts breakdown, they wanted $75 for the, I think it was for the motor and the transmission, without the handle. Just cut off the wires here, motor and transmission for 75 bucks. Why? Why, when you can buy a brand new one for 35 bucks? There is a, I do draw a line somewhere. If I can buy a brand new widget for half the price that it's going to truly cost me to fix the widget, then yeah, you do what makes sense. But in this case, I do believe I'm going to be able to fix this widget for a few cents worth of wire and solder. Snap ring is now nice and snug in there. Okay, now we've got to put this together. Now notice that there are two little lugs here, one right there, one right there. There's not one right there. When you look down in there, you'll see your square voids that need to match up with said lugs. So we're going to drop it right in there. Come on. There we go. Now we join the motor, and likewise with lugs, there are lugs. I don't know if you want to call them lugs. I'll call them lugs because I can't think what else they're called. Right here there's a high spot, and right here there's a high spot. This one is narrower than this one, prevents you from putting it together the wrong direction. Give this guy a jiggle to get the gears to mesh up, and there we are. And we got to get all the ball bearings down in these little holes. 3 of them in each hole. Okay, you got all 3 ball bearings in each hole. Let's get this little detent critter. Okay. Now you take this big honking spring, line up that business in there. I said line up that business in there. There it is. That plate is pressing down on those ball bearings, affecting the tension of your clutch. A little notch in there, a little notch here. I need to push a little detent in a little bit. Okay. Snap ring. And spacer. And spring the thing. Okay, now we got to flip this guy over here. Put it there. Go for another snap ring. Ha! Okay, top part's all together. Now is the easy part. In order to mount the business end with the grippy end, put in the battery connection. Put in the power switch. What's the deal here? Problem with the design of this thing is that it's flexible. Got an elbow, but the wiring routing is fairly poor, and that's what caused it to go belly up in the first place, was that the wires got kinked. All it took was a different perspective, I guess. Nope, there's that. Put the bar in there, and now put the lid on it. There it is. It's gonna work. Aha! Oh yeah, let's test out the transmission or the clutch. Haha! I'm gonna say works as advertised. Now I'll go ahead and put the proper roll pins in and go on my merry way, having a free electric screwdriver. I hope you enjoyed this process. I hope you enjoyed watching. And well, like I said at the beginning, I hope that maybe I can inspire you to, rather than throwing something out, maybe look to replacing it. Yes, I did put a few hours worth of time into this, and by some measures, yes, time is money, therefore maybe I would have been better off by buying a new one. But on the flip side, this to me, this is recreation. Fixing something, putting something together, taking something apart. It's fun to do. And most people, to some extent, pay for recreation. So, yeah, I spent a little bit of time recreating, and while I was recreating, I made myself a new tool. So, give it a thumbs up if you liked it. By all means, give it a thumbs down if you didn't like it. And Jake, thank you. I'll take good care of it. And guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you again real soon.